We have been looking at language, that is, what is language about, and we have looked at language learning. We have looked at language learning from the perspective of generative linguistics. Through the generative perspective of language learning, we have looked at generative apparatus, we have looked at language acquisition device, we have talked about universal grammar, we have talked about knowledge of language. We have seen how they work and how we reach what we call the body of knowledge. Today we are going to talk about evolution of language. Many a times when we talk about language and human mind, this question comes up, and the question is rooted in the distinction in the area which is very big. Is language part of human mind, or is language a social phenomena? We are not getting into this discussion right now. We are only looking at language as a phenomena of human mind, and when we talk about human mind, we want to see how evolution worked and what's the role of evolution in language. What happened that humans started speaking? Now, first of all, we will need to look at it in historical perspective. Let's look at a couple of things and then we will talk about it. Last time we saw distinction between human and non-human communication systems. By human communications we meant language, and by non-human communication system we meant stuff like animal language, we meant traffic signals and so on. We saw how language, that is human capacity, is different from non-human system of communication. In response to the question, when did human language begin? In other words, when did humans start speaking really the language that we speak? Of course in a primitive form, but when did it happen that language came in existence? It's a very nice question, but unfortunately we do not have a very conclusive answer to this question. One of the comprehensive discussions that comes about this question is from Ray Jackendorf. Ray Jackendorf puts this in a very nice perspective and gives it a cognitive turn, in the sense that we don't gain much because we do not have enough of evidence about evolution of language. So what is important for cognitive scientists and linguists studying language and studying human mind is to find out what happened in human mind that people started speaking. We have just seen the role of language acquisition device and universal grammar, which are hypothetical capacity of humans, and we have seen how they create whole body of knowledge called language. Such a language is an amazing capacity of humans. We can talk about past, we can talk about future, we can talk about mathematics, we can talk about philosophy, we can even gossip, and we can talk about techniques like how to start a computer or how to fix a tap, how to make a camera work, and many things. All of that happens with language. Many people say different things about the same thing. Many people say this is the unique capacity, this is the unique feature of language, in the sense that language defines us. We are defined by language. It is language that makes us distinct from all other species. And this is particularly what they mean, that anything that we do, anything that we talk about, we need a language for that. And this is an amazing human capacity. The other interesting part of human language is human languages, or human language in particular, has very few sounds in it. We will be talking about sounds very soon, and then we will see the details of them. But at this moment, I can mention it to you that human languages do not have more than few dozens of sounds. We haven't talked about the distinction between language and languages. We will talk about them as well. But let's stick to the term language. In short, that means all the languages of the world. And don't be surprised, human languages of the world definitely do not have more than few dozen sounds. Now, we don't know the total number of words in the languages that we speak. A Tamil speaker doesn't know the total number of words of Tamil. A Hindi speaker doesn't know the total number of words of Hindi. Or for that matter, an English speaker aren't sure about the total number of words in English. In other words, human language has vocabulary of thousands of words, and those words come out of few dozens of sounds. This is another unique thing that happens in human language. Now, all these things must not have been planned. Humans did not start speaking after a proper planning. That is, it's not that few cavemen sat together and decided that we should invent words. It's not that they decided what's the structure of a sentence is going to be, how words are going to be made up. And we don't need to look at too many evidence to establish this. As you can see, we can have multiple words, thousands of words out of few dozen of sounds. We have looked at recursiveness yesterday. We have looked at arbitrariness. These things have roles to play in how few dozens of sounds make thousands of words. So this is also an amazing thing about human language. Yet, unfortunately, we do not have sufficient evidence for the evolution of language. We do not say much, we do not have much to say in a conclusive way how it really started. That's the bottom line of it. Many things that have been said about evolution of language is hypothetical in nature. A lot of them are based on assumptions. I'll give you an example or two about that. After a long discussions about how old do we think is the history of human language, we don't know much about that either. But let's talk about the FOXP2 gene. This will tell us something about the debate on evolution of language. According to an estimate, around 100,000 to 200,000 years ago, we find the present shape of FOXP2 genes came into existence. It is easy and very tempting to call this language gene for a very particular reason. The rationale is a mutation in this gene leads to language impairment. and it causes problems in control of face and mouth movements. Now that's a big discovery, that's a big deal. This will easily make us conclude that probably this is language gene, and probably this is. However, before we conclude in such a manner, we need to make sure that this is not really some sort of language impairment. In other words, a mutation of FOXP2 genes is not causing speaking difficulties. It's possible that language impairment is different from speaking difficulties, and on the basis of speaking difficulties, we conclude that this causes language impairment. Now, as of now, until today, we do not have evidence in favor of this question. This is, like I said, it's a big deal. It was a big discovery, but that should not stop us from asking serious questions, particularly when it's about language and the biological foundation of language, that is, language is encoded in genes. Now, even such a thing is not conclusive. That is the basis for me to say many things that have been said about evolution of language seems to be highly inconclusive. In fact, there was a time, as Jack and Duff claims, such a field of research was not given much significance, because most of the things that were said in that field were hypothetical in nature. What do we do then? We will have to continue working on it. This FOXP2 gene seemed to be very promising, and an honest acknowledgement has also been made by Jack and Duff that despite great advances in neuroscience, we currently know very little about gene. We know very little about how genes determine the growth and structure of brains, or how the structure of brain determines the ability to use language. That might be limitation of the science that studies genes. However, he also tries to make a forecast that if we are ever going to learn more about how the human language ability evolved, the most promising evidence will probably come from human genome. Therefore, it seems to be a very promising field. Nonetheless, we don't have much to say about this at this time. Then, look at this discussion. We brought you to this discussion not to tell you that we don't have much to say. We brought you to this discussion to see the actual picture of the developments in science, actual picture of what we know and what we don't know about language. And on the basis of this, it was said that we need to know more about this capacity that is called human language. We need to know what happens that a child in a matter of few months, that is 10 to 15 months, can develop vocabulary from 100 words to 10,000. Now, it's not possible to memorize. It's not possible that a child has heard all those 10,000 words, but it has been observed that many of those 10,000 words have been uttered by children. This must be something phenomenal, something unique. that's the interesting part of human interactions. That's the interesting part of interaction between human language and human mind. The idea is we can look at human mind and we can look at the functioning of human mind more through the structure of language. And from this point on, we want to look at structure of language at a little bit more details for us to say how human mind decodes underlying rules at different levels of sounds, words and sentences. We will begin with sounds, and as you have seen that there are probably thousands of words. I mean, we don't know the total number of words in any language. So how thousands of words are made of few dozens of sounds? What are the roles underlying formation of words and sounds? This will tell us about how these things are organized in human mind. These things will tell us how human mind plays a role in learning language. Thank you.